Merrimac Mic proudly presents Wordplay, a virtual exhibit of poetic art. Wordplay Exhibit, Original Art Display. Please enjoy yourself, by Mary Van Abs. Wordplay is dedicated to David Davis. Intro. Merrimac Mic was founded in September of 2013. Holy smokes, where has the time gone? We are now at September plus 2020, and we're supposed to have had our wordplay, poetic art, artistic poetry show hanging and being visited, the reception today, October 24th. I don't need to spell out what happened to change our first ever venture into 3D or more graphic poetry, carefully obfuscating verse into infinite, possibly, delays, 19, plus 2 of us making this happen. This may turn into a book anthology after all.
Welcome. David Davis was a poet, naturalist, storyteller, and friend. David Davis was an emissary of joy. Whether he was wooing in welcome for a newcomer to an open mic or offering thoughtful feedback to a regular, David's words and his grin brought wisdom and warmth into the house. I bought a small stack of the joy poems to give as gifts. It is always welcome. The word welcome is a noun, a verb, an adjective, and an exclamation. David was also so many things to so many of us. He will be forever loved, missed, and honored by the members of Merrimac Mic. We dedicate our wordplay show to the memory of David Davis. Welcome.
I'm Paulette Demers-Turco, and I will read my poem, A Poem Stolen in Celebration of David Davis, 1946 to 2020. Nuttall's woodpecker shakes its wings. The woodcock flies up, twittering. The great horned owl questions, who? How dawn skies are flaring red for human sight. How earthbound streams fall and leap into the air. Only joy metastasized to brighter yellow, free from shade. How snowmen populate the clouds. How receptors in your brain made orbits orbit, juggled stamps and needles thread, imagined sonnet with a horse. How larkspur served as lodestone for a cow. New canine theology. How green and red tomatoes share a vine. How orange is a word that can be rhymed by more angelic. You hiked by columbine and rose, though briars tore your clothes, steady while crossing streams on rocks. While rooted like a winter oak, you caught the sun, crossed a clearing like the moth beside Chalk Creek. Your heart slowed down near Market Town on second Saturdays, now Zoom. You sat with poets talking vigorously inside the town library. A programmer as alchemist, your wonder grasped infinity. Your poetry lives at Joppa Flats. Your woohoo echoes Sunday mics. Your theory, imminence of cause, discarded once you knew deep love, replaced by natural communion. Your endorphins flow with joy, while an oriole sings overhead. From you we learned how small the mind of a chickadee, how large its world. This is a cento, a poem designed by assembling words from poems of another poet. The italics are Paulette's words. 2 pieces of art accompany this poem, both by Leni Seneschal. Thank you.
Poetry lives in the heart, giving the tongue a glorious ride, by Gail C. Henney.
A tree appeared suddenly in a low-income neighborhood. This tree was unusual because its leaves were of different colors, some red, some purple, some green, some yellow. It was a multicolored leaf tree. A little boy passed by on his way to school, and a red leaf fell on him. He picked it up and thought, "This is love." An old man with a cane passed by, and a purple leaf fell on him, and he realized it meant health. Soon the newspapers heard of the tree and wrote an article in the Daily News with a picture of the tree. The town started having all kinds of visitors and tourists to see this tree. And they went out for lunch and bought gifts for their friends and families. And soon the tree became a popular destination. The town people started to prosper and make money. People had jobs, and the poor had food on their table. This is the story of a tree that came to a town and brought happiness and prosperity. Driving on the expressway as snowflakes fall, muffling the sound of cars, the mist rises on the ocean. I see gray silhouettes of trees rising through the fog like ghosts emerging. Words echo in my mind and repeat, "Right, right."
Distance, a poem. 1. Late fall 1956, on a warm day at the school's dentist's office. I watched him pull your tooth and you cry. Outside we stand beside the dentist's house on a leaf-strewn, coal-cindered, strewn patch of lawn. I watched the tears streak down your ponytail-framed face, and my heart melts into yours forever. Summer 1961, we walked through the local fairgrounds, hand in hand at the carnival. Both of us, as beautiful as all of us were who are now old, were beautiful then. In 1961, I remember the music of the carousel, and as the ride began to spin, I leaped up on its deck and pulled you alongside of me. We were too old to ride the painted ponies and too proud to ride on the bench seat. So we stood amongst the plastered figures, and as they bounced up and down, a neighbor called out from the crowd, "What are you doing on that merry-go-round?" And I called back, "Taking my girl for a ride." That fall, we would take a ride in my father's Chevy through the back streets of our neighborhood. I was too young to drive, and you were too sweet to know, and I was too wild to care. 50 years later, we would walk side by side through the same fairgrounds. The carousel was gone, but the music of our spirits was still there. 2 days later, we would ride my motorcycle to visit a friend from the same days in 1961. We chatted and laughed like children, even though our hair was gray. Soon you would return to your far-off desert home somewhere in America. You, a matriarch with a home, children, grandchildren, animals, a wonderful husband, and perhaps a chicken coop. Myself, I would stay and ride my Harley through the cold northern roads, because for me, the ride never stopped.
I'm going to tell you a story, and it's a true story, of how in 1995 I took my son and some rugby friends on the way to France, sailing from near the Isle of Wight in England, which was a 100-mile trip. So in the spring of 1995, we set out, and this is a lesson of how not to cross the English Channel. The yacht's out at sea, but not in the water. The tide left it behind, like a lamb to the slaughter. It's 100 miles to France, and we're out of luck. 16 hours for the trip, and we really are stuck. It's me, taking Robin and the rugby lads, just me and them, with no other dads. We got to this point just after 1 hour. I'd gone below, leaving them with the power. It's my fault. They did not know the finer arts. It really does help to look at the charts. Acres of water on the southern track. It's too late now, we just can't go back. Across those clear acres, you could go fast, but with 1 foot deep, the first yard is your last. What was needed was a wide sweep around. What we got instead was 6 hours aground. With 5 stuck ruggers, testosterone comes on strong. 6 hours of blue was the cut of their song. They played ball on the mud with the boat as a goal, getting more points if they scored in the hole. Oh, how they wished they were sailing to France, testosterone grounded and doing a dance. A tiny mistake and our plan was wrecked. Trouble like this, only a minute to correct. I leapt at the helm and set reverse strong. 'Twas more than a minute. I'd taken too long. We're stuck for 6 hours, I'm sorry to say. When the tide's back in, we'll be going our way. So 6 hours later, we set sail to the land of frogs and moles, of the sea and the sand. Another 6 hours later, the sea it is rough, and these rugby boys are not mighty tough. Despite all the wonderful cooling fresh air, all of the 5 have a cute mal de mer. As we sail on at quite a quick lick, summer upper boots are half full of sick. When we get to France, everything is so good. Landing on land means they feel as they should. Now in port, their empty stomachs greet quite a few plates of mules, frogs, and frites. Thank you. It was a wonderful journey. Well, it was on the way back.
My next piece I'd like to share with you is called Attractions, and they're little tiny little poems that are made up from magnets. So the first one begins. Rain, mist, void, sun, light shine, sky, moon soar, wind sings, chants, smooth, still lake, like luscious chocolate. Show the road through the forest, above, beneath, under, cool blue water. The black rose, storm beat delicately. You rock, sea goddess. Think, read, elaborate. Gorgeous raw diamond. Bed, essential place to sleep. Time to dream and play. Garden produce to cook, smell, and eat. A moment together, whisper, language of love always. Vision, picture, felt. Power and beauty of shadow. Purple, pink, red, peach, white. Music, honey, sweet symphony for life. Hi, my name is Marilyn Carter, and I'd like to share with you one of my poems called Color Messengers. Between the layers of REM, your name, azure, echoes in my head, lingers on my lips, surrounds me in peacock blue color, reminding me of the past. In the early morning hours, on the silent, deserted road, a peacock appears before me, fans its majestic feathers, too young to question, old enough to enjoy its beauty. Through the years, you call to me, at the ocean, jewelry, a favorite shirt from the 70s, Mott meets Peter Max, a tiny azurite malachite stone, and years later, another peacock visit. Everywhere your color surrounds me, gains my attention, brings insight, self-expression, discovery, reminds me who I am, a Pisces, goddess of the sea, drawn, guided, protected by turquoise, blue lace agate, aquamarine, azurite.
My name is Matt Cockerham, and this is my poem entitled Parental Gifts. My parents took me on family trips, showed me places far from my home. Go into the world, be free and explore. But my heart did not want to roam. My parents gave me lessons in music to help self-expression take wing. Practice and share your talent with others, but my heart did not want to sing. My parents shared with me their faith, so I try hard and help others to achieve. Let wisdom and community be your courage and hope, but my heart did not want to believe. And so I sat there, in the darkness, feeling nothing but fear and despair. But then, when I looked inside of my heart, I found something not previously there. I began to see beyond the horizon. I began to hear a sweet melody. I began to feel a spirit burn brightly from somewhere down deep within me. I felt so grateful. I now understood that by giving me all of the above, my parents gave me what my heart always wanted. They had given me all of their love.
This is Paulette Demers Turco. I will read my poem Mariposa Monarca, monarch, butterfly. In waves of orange, sable, millions lift, take flight, aloft beside the ocean's mouth, undulating high, the swell, a gift above Quebec, Cape Cod, Cape May, and south. Then west, they feed and mount a Gulf Coast run. Their fragile wings glide high on thermal air. The earth's magnetic pull, the setting sun, guide the monarch's wings, and if they fare above the plains to mountain crests, in whirs around atop warm, giant Oyamel firs. By Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, they fold their tired wings in prayer, it said, then fall to sleep. Wade branches bend, some break, from clustered clumps the mariposas make. Come March, the mariposas stir awake, atop Sierra Cinque's soaring peak, a climb true Lepidoptera lovers make, to see 100 million wing pairs beat above, aim north. They mimic light spring rain. Their silhouetted bodies float and fade, mate in Texas, then cross wide terrain, lay eggs on milkweed underleaves. Sparse shade and dwindling fields greet more new wings in flight toward eastern coasts that after miles alight on milkweed leaves. Eggs hatch, more larvae feast and morph to wings that finally reach northeast. Yet females must lay hundreds one by one, or this monarch Odysseys undone. I'm Paulette Demers Turco, and I'll be reading Sail Under the Veiled Moon. The whistling breeze balloons the sail and cool flows by my face. The dory glides while ripples trail, humming as we outpace the mango-tinted moon's ascent, the dimming cobalt sky, the lemon lake with sun's descent, as lavender drifts by. Thank you. I'm Paulette Demers Turco, and I will read my poem, Singer. It is a sestina. Singer. The last time Mother closed her sewing machine, she'd sewn my sister's gown of silk and lace, a veil with pearls, fulfilling her own wish. The house, now her own space, would have no hum. She'd reached the private goal she'd set herself, to dress each daughter till her wedding day, plus bridesmaids' gowns and her own dress that day. She learned how fabric stressed her one machine and oiled it well. Used threads she chose herself. She learned the slip of silk, the weave of lace, learned to guide her singer, feel its hum, with yards and yards of fabric toward her wish of daughters dressed by her, beyond her wish when she took her vows on her wedding day. While her love served in Normandy, she'd hum soft tunes of his return. No sewing machine. Her trousseau was of borrowed silk and lace. Her groom gave her a singer. She'd teach herself. She made her first dress simply, for herself an A-line shift in navy blue. Her wish for Christmas velvet, Easter's handmade lace, came first in trimmings for the holiday. As we arrived, she cherished her machine. From birth, we breathed in rhythm with its hum. She'd set the bobbin, press the footplate, hum a favorite tune, and fit each dress herself in pastels, flowered prints, as her machine sewed ribbons, pleats, yes, every daughter's wish, for birthdays, dances, gowns for spring prom day, velvet, chiffon, rayon, linen, lace. All sewing done, she stored away her lace, knit baby blankets, soon lost names, used hums for words and lullabies, forgetting midday shopping trips and losing sense of self. What daughters said, the clothes she'd made, her wish undone. Instead, confusion. What machine? What meal? What day? What daughter? What is lace? Our photos proved how her machine did hum. Our wish, her awe. I stitched these gowns? Myself? Thank you.
Short Poems by Gail C. Henney. reaching, then retreating, off balance, contorted politics. Winter's wind is a trumpet of our fear. What do your retired hats reveal of before, when hospice was an impossibility? Sharp angles, a few flaws, just enough.
My name is Gail Henney, and I'll be reading for you the poem entitled Touch We Can't Share. Touch we can't share. Mercy wanders elsewhere with COVID-19 in the air. I am Alice in Wonderland, living with a mask, gloves, uncertainty. Tired of being afraid, seeing gurneys, white sheets on the news as viruses linger. The gulf of 6 feet divides when only touch will do. A bittersweet taste of normal claws at memory, since there's nowhere to go.
Don't stop the up. Binds and vines will stick to hold you down, but don't stop pulling up, or you could drown. Fret hard on how to break the bonds of earth, and ride the winds of thought to one more birth. Poor bird, oh, what did ruthless competition do? You've ravaged everyone but little you. You'll need a friend to help restore your flesh. Life is a better when it's fresh.
Iteration. Texting a friend. When will this end? Watching the news, realizing this too is very much like 9/11, perhaps even more. When collapsing Twin Towers unexpectedly changed everything. We long to touch and smile and hug, not knowing how many days till we are able. Just trying to put food on the table. Walk through this desert of a predicament, shuffling one foot in front of the other. Glad to feel glimmers, the sight of a yellow flower, the voice of a friend, a mother, a brother, a lover, people with whom we write the pages of our lives from cover to cover, celebrating birthdays and holidays from afar, trying to complete each day takes everything we have. Wondering aloud to ourselves or by video chat what life will be like when we see each other again face to face. What iteration will life be? Defined, iteration, repetition of a process or utterance. Each day, another like the one before. Iteration, repetition of a procedure to find a better solution to a problem. Each day, hoping for the answer. Iteration, a new version of a piece of computer hardware or software. Each day, knowing we and the world are forever changed. This virus is behaving very predictably, same curve as in Italy, and moreover, like the healing math of Kabbalah, or the fact that it takes exactly 15 years for algae to gear up and find its way to my rooftop. And I forgot how much I did not want to take statistics. So glad I did. And typing, too. Who knew? Otherwise, I wouldn't be here writing this to you.
The Terminator. They call him the Terminator. He is a bad dude. He's as big as a refrigerator and holds twice as much food. He became the world's muscle man. He lifted weights till it hurt, moved to Hollywood to perfect his tan, and went everywhere without a shirt. He found wealth and found fame, but he couldn't find any class. He had to meet someone with a name, so he married a Kennedy lass. He still had a heavy accent. When he met Ms. Kennedy, she wasn't sure what he meant when he said, "Will you marry me?" Her family said it's a sin to enter into the marriage. Not only is he Republican, but he's also such a savage. They moved into the governor's mansion, with its stately marble wall. He was thinking perfect for romancing. She was thinking, it's so small. Arnold met the maid under the stairs. He was hoping she'd be taller. She had to stand on some chairs. They're tiny down in Guatemala. Maria knew Arnold was running around, so she hired Detective Orion. He reported back what he found. Arnold's pumping more than iron. She asked him what she did wrong. Give me one little factor. I can't believe you fooled me so long. You're such a lousy actor. Maria leaned against the mansion door, like always looking aggravated. She said, "Don't come around no more. You've been terminated." Unreal people. I took my date to the policeman's ball, and before the champagne did pop, I heard rattling from the hall. She was making out with RoboCop. I bought the new automated car, but I had to put it to rest. I found it parked outside the bar. It failed the breathalyzer test. I bought a new GPS, on sale for half the price. I can't find the right address, but her voice is oh so nice. Marcia fought the conveyor belt, but it pulled her in by the dress. Now she complains about the welt, but it did say 8 items or less. When they visit the Big Apple, Canadians eat at the automat. Then they don't have to grapple with where they left the tip at. Lately I've been having a feeling that I'm not alone. I wonder how high is the ceiling of my neighbor's drone. I blasted through the NH toll booth. They canceled my Easy Pass. But to tell you the truth, I don't care. I live in Mass. I went to the tanning salon and laid on the magic bed. Minutes after they turned it on, all my favorite skin was dead. The cigarette machine, it ripped all my money off. I shook it hard and it started to lean, then let out a dry cough. The clown face on the burger plates, his name is Ronald, the clown face of the United States.
Our country was attacked and we didn't even know it because ambitious politicians and predacious corporations are erasing all traces of homeostasis. There is so much confusion and tricky dick illusions we can't believe our eyes, and they wonder why people get high. Now let's take a sneak peek at our commanders-in-chiefs. They're full of tricks but no treats, and they are hooking us on more than just sweets. This is a hell of a shell game where they keep changing the name, but they know full well the dangers are the same. And just like sugar, no matter which brand we pick, there's an obituary list of hidden health risks. Fentanyl, it is just another one of their medical tentacles. They are assassins in suits, they are cutthroats in lab coats, and we are their guinea pigs, cash cows and scapegoats. Yes, we're sheep, we're prey, and much to our dismay, we're being led by leaders who are liars and cheaters. They are lying left and right and protecting the wrong people's rights. Hey, Pharmacea, a.k.a. Big Pharma, it was D-Day, the day you took down the DEA, and you used one of their own to set it in stone. They pushed you when you pushed back, and then they were ambushed and attacked by an unethical congressional act. Was this sedition or a high ambition or both? All we know is the 60 Minutes whistleblower said it was a unanimous vote. Drugs, dough, and quid pro quo have adversely affected the voting record of those who have been infected. This is a Lex Luthor business sector trifecta. Our body politic is sick. We need to get the money out of politics and quick, because our politicians have a quick draw, and they're killing us by signing Amityville bills into law. The hills of eyes and these villainous bills they devise are giving us more than just chills, high medical bills, and free pain pills. This is a healthcare scare. This is not humane healthcare. This is biological warfare. You women and men have venom in your pens and you're using them to slash and spend. You are multiplying the dead without bloodshed. Look, Ma, no hands and no warheads. Our enemies are laughing their laissez-faire derrieres off because democracy is on the auction block and our citizens are slaves of the airwaves without firing around. Our people are being taken down. Terrorists are burying America in heroin and flooding our streets with smack in a pandemic narcotic terrorist attack. Now let's backtrack. The Sackler brother physicians had a twisted mission of their own, and whether it was intentional or not, they turned bread into stones. Heroin hooked up with oxycodone. Now they're a tag team killing machine. Like tooth decay, we're being weakened from within. Now we're going without. Now check this out. The United States has a mainland China, methadone thrown in Suboxone stocks in a revolving door detox penalty box. And you drug makers are making money around the clock. You're making so much money, your money talks. You lobbied and hawked, and your honey squawked. Now they're selling your drugs up and down the block because you got Uncle Sam to pull out all the stops. To all the traders involved, you robbed Peter to pay Paul. This is war, and you went AWOL. Now it is time to neutralize the lies that you disguise as alibis. Bayer, are you a wolf or the devil in disguise? Heaven knows you have something to hide. If FDR was alive, you wouldn't have pulled the wool over his eyes. Lies, lies, and more lives lost. Profits are sought at any cost. Now we're left to find clarity in chaos. McKesson, you should be confessing, 'cause you're deadly in the trigger finger on a smoking Smith & Wesson. And Purdue Pharma, the karma you're incurring is alarming. You're pushing pills that people are popping. Now they're dropping like flies from your Oxycontin. Kids are overdosing and minors are dying. This is so senseless, tragic, and terrifying. You are decimating generation after generation without even trying. Yes, the kiss of death is on your breath. You are no better than a drug dealer peddling crystal meth. You have babies hooked before they breathe their first breath. You're the Grim Reaper and you're reaping the rewards. Now there's a smorgasbord of youthful, useful organs that will never reach the morgue. Oh, how the five senses tempt and taunt the hungry mind that's filled with want. Now there's $6 billion in the budget for the opioid crisis you caused. The taxpayer shouldn't pay a penny. The total cost should be yours. Our nation is the patient, and you are the cancerous tumor. You must be removed from power before you devour another consumer. Now let the liars be quiet and the truth be told. You are a cancer to your country if you can be bought or sold.
The Fruits of Sicily is one of my poetry portraits, a portrait of a person comprised of their image along with a poem that says something about their life. Giuseppina Di Gaetano was the grandmother of a good friend. I saw her photo and she looked so much like my friend that I had to hear her story. I created the Fruits of Sicily for her. The Fruits of Sicily. Giuseppina di Gaetano traded the footlights of the Italian theater for a torch that shone across the sea. Where the streets, they said, were paved with gold and the rivers flowed with milk and honey. On the banks of the river, she worked the wool mills to earn her bread, gave her heart to a young man who offered not roses, but a cart full of fruit and the promise of love. With love they bore their fruit, cries of mangiare echoing under a lady's torch that shone like the hot Sicilian sun. La Cubanita is one of my poetry portraits, a portrait of a person comprised of their image along with a poem that says something about them. But this portrait is unique in that it's the only poetry portrait I've created where I didn't write the poem. This is a portrait of my mother, and I used a poem she wrote about me. In using her words, I made this a portrait by and about her. I called it La Cubanita because she was a Cubanita, but also because her words struck me as a prayer not only for her child, but also for the island she had to leave quickly when revolution broke out. I'm reading La Cubanita in my mother's original Spanish, but my translation will follow. La Cubanita. Dios mío, cuídamela. Es mi orgullo, mi amor y mi confianza, y a la vez mi preocupación, mi angustia y mi dolor. Yo solo soy una pobre madre, a la que tú has entregado un tesoro maravilloso. Yo sola no puedo conservarlo. Tú que conoces su valor de una forma completa que yo nunca podré lograr, tú la cuidarás. La Cubanita, translation. My God, watch over her for me. She is my pride, my love, and my faith, and at the same time, my worry, my anguish, and my pain. I am only a poor mother to whom you have delivered a marvelous treasure. I alone cannot keep it. You, who recognize its value completely in a way I could never achieve, you will watch over her. What the future will bring is one of my poetry portraits, a portrait of a person comprised of their image along with a poem that says something about their life. Zulema Regosa was my great aunt. She was an artistic soul who lived a tragic life. The events I wrote about her are all true, although they're written poetically. This is her story. What the future will bring. Zulema Regosa married a dashing pilot at the dawn of aviation, and her dreams took flight. He was accused of transporting government secrets to Europe and tortured as a political prisoner. Within a few months, he did not recognize her. After he died, her sister picked her up at the airport. Zulema was blind in one eye and needed a cane to walk. She spent 40 years sitting in a small apartment, sewing pins on the curtains to keep the world out. Then she died, and her dreams took flight. In the style of my poetry portraits, I created Fragile, a mixed media sculpture using objects I found on the beach, a stone tile with natural wave-like markings, and a poem I wrote about finding these objects on a sheet of paper made to look as if it was buried in the sand. This is a portrait of a memory. Fragile. It was a face looking up at me from the sand, perfect on its stone head. A face carved out of barnacles, natural and perfect, heart-shaped as the stone on which they lived. 2 perfect eyes and a nose, skeleton, insect, face, not human necessarily, giant to the creatures who created it, tiny to me. I picked it up and closed my hand around it like an amulet, a cameo, marveling at the perfection and irony of the natural world. I plucked the wings from the surf years later. only feet away from where the face had been. Still attached and salty wet, I cupped my shell-like hands around them like a treasure, knowing they would dry and break, thinking I could box them, shelter them, keep them. I knew the wings belonged to my heart. The day I placed them side by side, the wings snapped, and the face fell from the stone and shattered, dry after so much time. My hands trembled, placing the fragments carefully on the stone, willing them back into place, those eyes that had looked into mine. Like a surgeon artist, I coaxed the pieces back to a semblance of what they had been. And as I struggled with memory, I wondered if I could. I wondered if I should. Or if something made by nature could never be remade, meant to live and die and turn to dust, these remnants of tiny lives. But that is what we do, artists. Recreate the natural, the memories, the pull on our hearts, and the feel of wings folded after flight. A look, once sheltered, now released, the empty shell upheld, lest it shatter.
Preamble. Cannibals have cannibal kings. As the cannibal asked, "What's for dinner, mother?" Spin, 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 the truth is wearing thin, no promises are kept somehow, all oaths have gotten worthless now, spin, spin, spin. Sin, 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 commensurate with spin, there's money you can make today by taking food from kids away, sin, sin, sin. Gin, 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 for drowning out the sin, obliterate the conscious mind by fondling someone's behind, gin, gin, gin. Dust, 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 no matter what your crust, all that you wroth, it matters not, you know by heart it goes to pot, dust, dust, dust. And thus the empire was reforged and became greater than the sum of its participants. Thank you. Mother Farquhar and his co-conspirators. What's outrageous are attempts to divert our full attention. You know all this is done with bad intention. Contrition feigned, serving to regress our laws and notion. Under attack are our very rules that govern our contortions, while at the time fixing underhandedly to legalize distortion. And that while pandering and using inappropriate proportion to apportion will merely benefit the super rich, and be advised that any such attempt at reapportion most certainly does not and will not even pass, even when it's just called birth control. Using reapportion and extortion to deny account to proportions of the nations is just another effort to raise soldiers for their wars. It is as such outrageous and contagious, all coupled with confusing efforts to deny access to means of birth control. Meanwhile, such thinking gains momentum, gains adoption, spreading itself international. Thus, you must do your part without collusion, do not partake in games as these. You know full well it only serves illusion, it's a mirage, an image of what you might think might have been great. But the notion of great nations disassembles under thought and shortly takes quite quick to flight. In the end, what's left is much intrusion as it tramples on our rights.
Snake winds around garden in search of young toads. secreted in damp dirt. Summer sheds its skin, a time to transform from lush greens to yellows and tans of late summer landscape, to begin to tap into early autumn's golden light. Icy pellets, like coarse sand, ping against the panes as fire and hearth greets the frozen dawn. Sun's warmth works on bare branches. Solid shells slip off in silver droplets. Old Year hands its time card to the new. We settle into season's frigid days and long nights under a winter moon.
I'm Priscilla Turner Spada, and I'll be reading my poem, Newsworthy. Newsworthy. Vote for me for mayor. I'm such a player. A chicken in every pot. I've been sold and bought. Do you want my autograph? It'll cost you $1.50. When I get elected, I won't feel so rejected. I'm not a mere cartoon, though I speak in these balloons. Vote for me for mayor. You won't have a prayer. Hello, my name is Priscilla Turner Spada, and I'm reading my haiku called Necklace Haiku. Rolled and wrapped and strung, beads made of words end to end, paper necklaces. I'm Priscilla Turner Spada. I'm reading my poem, Wallpaper. Wallpaper, layer after deep layer, is lifting, peeling, revealing the need to paint and patch the frayed edges of the buried past.
Hi, this is Andrea Valario, and I am sharing with you a piece that was inspired by some artwork I saw down at the Cape and mixed with what I believe is my experience or our experience of being here. And it's entitled, Grace is Always Near. You are a poem, a prayer, a mosque, a temple. Love is the great work, and you, the apprentice. This is Andrea Valario, and I'm sharing a piece entitled Beauty. This came forth from the teachings of the spirits and the elements that surround and support, and upon entering into the woods one early morning. Snow out of season has a mystical quality. Placing plans aside, she teaches the freedom of the unknown and unexpected. A walk through the hillside, cast amidst tufts of white upon surprised oak, poplar, and cedar. A felt stillness, a blanketing that wasn't here yesterday. I've been graced in the sanctity of an embrace I've needed since spring. All the while, Earth's inhabitants bustle. But there's a secret here in these canopied woods, a whisper of who we are. And I remember the forest, how she teaches and bemuses, how aspen received the trilogy of birdsong, how a muskrat feeds her young, how the natural world evokes the heart to sing of beauty. Grace is upon us. Raptured, the Lord of earth consumes. Here is beauty that is not afraid to show herself. This earth, she is stunning.
Shells. Seashells on the seashore. Waves deposit them. A mix of shells, seaweed, stone, and debris. weathered and worn by the waves, battered by raging storms. Some are broken, reshaped, discolored and rough. Some polished, iridescent and smooth. Others a combination of each. Life is our ocean. Events ebb and flow. We build our shells, protecting what we hold within. Weathered by our personal storms, we are tossed, shaped, and polished. Indian summer. Clear blue skies, crisp air, foliage gaudy as sun illuminates. A spectacular palette of gold, orange, red, brown, and green. Tall oaks tower above the trail. Suddenly, a gust of wind. Leaves rustle. Then tonk, tonk, tonk. Branches are struck. Again and again. Thunk, thud. Acorns rain down. The ground is covered. Careful! Watch your step. Acorns become nature's ball bearings. Cautiously, continuing into the woods. Rounding the corner, squirrels scamper, darting in every direction. Chit, chit, chattering their annoyance, scolding the intruder that dares to disturb their harvest, as they prepare for the oncoming winter. For we all know winter is approaching. End of summer Sonicu. Squirrels racing about. Autumnal transformation. Winter approaching. Fall suddenly arrives. Leaves rapidly turn color, orange and crimson. Sunshine fades away, and summer's warm breeze. Get your sweater now. Time to hunker down. Time for thought and reflection. Time to write it down. What will next summer bring? Not to think about that now. Communicate, not pontificate. I once met a man, said he. I know words, and I have stories to tell. Each will reveal my wisdom. Story upon story, hours pass. The monologue continues. To change the subject, I present my poem. He responds, it can be better. Poems must rhyme. Listen to me. Question not. You can improve. I will tell you how it should be. But these are my words, I protest. My story, not yours. But it should rhyme, he responds. Finally, I ask, is this a date or an opportunity for you to pontificate? Going within. Winter go within, a time for philosophers and playful poets.
I love clouds, and I want to write a piece about them. But what can I say? Nothing rhymes with clouds, and cloudy is so dowdy. There's nothing negative about clouds. Even dark storm clouds have a silver lining. The creative potential of clouds is infinite, as is the sky. Is barometric pressure anything like political pressure? Is there discrimination between dark clouds and light? Between fluffy clouds and dense? I wonder if there's a local committee that decides what shapes they will form today. The great thing about climate change, a plethora of clouds, even though some might think of them as shrouds. How do I find things I didn't know I loved? I can think of lots of things I love, but what brings me to the epiphany, the revelation, the squeal of delight, the stunned discovery of a fabulous, awesome realization of knowing there's one more thing that I'll be able to love, feel the joy of this thing, to immerse myself in, have it wrapped around me, to breathe in its scent, know the texture of it on my skin, on my face, My hair, my feet, like walking on the fine sand of a Gulf Coast beach, the warmth of that sun-kissed sand, the squeak of it. Trouble. It's the little things, like the princess and the pea. Eat your vegetables.
Dare. Take chances. Go to the wall and again, as a hobby, as a way of life, as an exemplar, as an apology, as a beacon, as a trust, as you must, as you must.
The concreteness of this moment, here and now, no matter where you are, only the immediate realization that dangling out of this hollow space, this panoramic window bounded only by the inevitable blurry edges of the peripheral, from which a torso hangs, tenuous arms float, reach into space, extend on either side, resisting gravity, legs end abruptly on the ground, balance on feet in contact with the earth, apparently connected to this same explosive vision, this whole of the entire cosmos.
There Used to Be Rules by Elizabeth S. Wolfe. My mother told me once, when I was in my 30s, she couldn't imagine how hard it must be to have choices. In her day, good girls were virgins at their weddings, and that was that. And then the 60s happened, and free love. And then in the 70s, abortion was legal. Without the pregnancy card, the whole game was changed. My mind reeled. How sheltered was she? What did she see when she looked at me? Does she know how I lived as an outcast, a foster child? Nights with no place to sleep, I crashed in shelters, wards, hallways, under bushes, in borrowed sleeping bags. I shagged friends for a place to sleep. Ma, if you are still listening, I have taken my daughter to the ends of the earth. Ma, if you still care, I carry a piece of your jewelry with us wherever we go. You don't understand, Captain. He has a gun. The hijacking of Flight 1320. Nothing about the story made sense. Many had no idea what his real name was. Doctors left the bullet lodged in his left temple. I have been to the other side, he would say, where all the dead were assembled. All of life is a freak show. This is just one of the parts they charge you to see.
Last Pose, a Western Motel, 1957, by Edward Hopper. The sun is nearly set in the wide western horizon. The foothills cast a long shadow into the quiet, sparse room. I observe as he sets up his easel and arranges colors just beyond the doorway facing the large picture window. The room is darkening, an unopened valise nearby. My bared shoulders and arms are chilled from the cooler air. Edward, why are you doing this to me? Thankfully, you kept me out of Nighthawks and People in the Sun. As you know, I hate to share the stage. But solos, since with Automat, then Hotel Window, Girl in the Sun, Girly Show, and now this, Western Motel? I know what I'm supposed to be thinking. Is this the right motel? I hope so. He can't miss seeing my car, and I know I'm here. He so enjoyed our time together, said he'd not felt such erotic happiness in years. I know he's coming. It's been nearly 2 hours. Should I call? What if his wife picks up? Oh God, I can't do that. I've not done this since I was 16. A runaway. The guy with the camper. Creepy, but he kept me in food and clothes. Now I'm 36, with 2 kids at my mother's. Why am I still doing this? What's wrong with me? Edward, after this I'm through. No more posing in such lonely, desolate, no one wants to be places. Close. Clean-ups. Let's return to South Truro. Wyatt selfie. I am Andrew Wyatt's boy in the field, knees clasped, coonskin hat, eyes fixed ahead, alone in the cold, lifeless grass near dark woods and distant, thundering ocean waves, wanting to be living in my dreams, yet locked in frame by a square of wood with a prison of glass over me, cracked with anger and hope to never go back. I escaped the fixed stare and locked box, cast behind hurt, fear, and scars of pain, to be the boy again as a gray-haired man.